Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I'm now joined by the National Chairman of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Alhaji Shehu Musa Gabam, a former Chief of Staff to Bauchi State Governor Issa Yuguda. He was also a vice presidential candidate of the SDP in the 2019 general election. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Alhaji.
A great pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so let's start with the 2023 elections, which has come and gone. How will you describe the outcome?
Well, it is quite very, very complicated, especially some of us that have invested all our time, our life, marketing beavers, and we assured Nigerians that beavers are going to work. We urge all Nigerians to go and collect their PVC. Millions of Nigerians turn out to collect their PVCs, and we assured them that this election will be the largest turnout election in history. That was our conviction as leaders of political parties. We are collective in this decision. We have to market INEC and the beaver system more than any other institution or organization or media organization. We stood out to ensure that the democratic processes are transparent, credible, well-respected internationally. And of course, as stakeholders in the polity, we have no option than to support every processes. The Electoral Act 2022 that was signed into law is quite specific, quite direct on some of the issues related to elections. The beaver system are product of law because you must go through the process of accreditation before you cast your votes. And in the situation where the beavers have not worked, have not been deployed, it is also in the law that that election stand cancelled. So part of the disappointment we had was that in most of the places, the beavers disappointed a lot of people. And I'm happy that the INEC themselves admitted to some of the flaws they have recorded, whether intentionally or otherwise. But before the elections, a lot of issues were raised. People were doubting the credibility of the beaver system. We tried to defend it as much as possible because once we cast doubt around the beaver system, it means we are running into a very terrible situation as a nation. And then, of course, our democracy will be in danger. So we are quite disappointed, with some of the outcomes. The beavers did not work in most of the places. You have unpatriotic elements that compromises the system, compromises the beavers, and you have a situation where people are printing on ballot paper, result being announced by unpatriotic presiding officers who are supposed to be quite conversant with the provision of the law. But like I have said in our press conference, we have one country called Nigeria. We are committed to Nigeria. We are committed to the peace and stability of Nigeria. And the law that established INEC gave them the authority to conduct elections, equally gave them the power to declare the winner of the election. And we supported the declaration by INEC of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu by winning the election. We also urge all those who disagree with the processes to go through our court system. Because in the absence of not doing that, it means we are inviting anarchy, we are inviting instability. At least we are struggling to keep Nigeria safe right now. We are struggling with a lot of displaced people, insecurity, Boko Haram, kidnappers, members, rappers, all over the place. So at this point, we cannot make the situation to look extremely complicated for whatever interest. Our interest is Nigeria, and we want Nigeria to be stable. We want the election to be very peaceful. We want the election to be very harmonious. And those who have lost should accept it in good faith. We have accepted as a party that we are not contesting the presidential election. We congratulated the presidential candidate, also congratulated President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So in that regard, the mixed reactions are real, are genuine, are very sincere. And of course, INEC themselves must go back to the drawing board. We thought that the state elections would be much, much better, much more sophisticated than what we have saw. What we saw at the governorship election leave much more to be desired. It's very disgraceful to the institution. It's very, very disgraceful to the country as a whole, because in most of the places, just like what was recorded, beavers were not deployed, beavers did not use. We have complained to INEC officially. We have drawn their attention while the activities was ongoing. And yet, you know, it appears that the chairman of the INEC is extremely very handicapped, because he's just overseeing a situation where there's nothing he can do. People compromise this process. INEC did not know the people that are presiding over these processes. They were just being appointed to supervise the elections, and both of them represent a lot of interests at various locations. So, but the nation have to move on, despite the hard feelings, the deliberate provocations by the processes that led to where we are today.
Actually, to be clear, what you're saying is you do not have any issue, any problem with the outcome of the election, but the process. Is that clear?
Yes, the process is very faulty. Election has been declared officially. The law authorized INEC to conduct and declare election. We stand by the declaration of INEC. We await what the court can do, because various interested parties that have issues with the processes have gone to court. Some of them have filed, some of them are in the process of filing. We equally encourage them to go to court, because that is the only way we can strengthen our democratic institutions. We cannot allow our democratic institutions to continue to be weakened by desperate elements who don't understand a transparent process, or who don't understand what it takes to follow a transparent process. I want to remind you one thing. I was among the youngest people who worked so hard in restoration of democracy. My boss then led led the G7 movement that led to the restoration of democracy. We went through a lot of turbulent, period in the restoration of democracy. He was arrested, sent to prison. So many people were sent to prison. Among the founding fathers of the PDP, it is only, I think, Sule Lamido that is alive today. Most of them are known. So I'm part of the process that fought for the restoration of this democracy, from G7, G18, G34. So I understand the dynamics, and I understand where the process has been abused, how people are feeling. By now, we shouldn't be experimenting as a nation, closing about almost 30 years of deep democracy, electoral processes. We are still struggling to get a process that is decent, that is responsible, that is acceptable to Nigerians. It is a shame that we are yet to define a process that is acceptable by all of us. The bridges are unnecessary, the grit are unnecessary, because everybody will do his best and leave the country behind. And then you have to leave a country with a legacy that posterity can record you, as a mark of moving the country forward. But the kind of greed that we have seen, the desperation we have seen, the desperate attempt to make sure INEC system collapses at all costs, because some people believe that without them the country cannot move forward. So it's a tragedy that we are going through this once again. I thought the struggle to take the military back to Barrack was the best that we can do, and I also thought that the politicians have learned their lesson. But when you look at people that have served the government in the capacity of ministers or at different levels, today are the one compromising the system, talking down on the system, trying to create problems in the system. It means that we have a long way to go as citizens, and we must learn our lesson, looking at what our neighbors are going through, the kind of violence and barbarism going, in our neighboring countries. That Nigeria, as sophisticated, as educated as we are, we should be very civilized in our conversations, disagreeing on issues. So the court is the only way that we can solve these issues. Nobody should call for any violence, killing or maiming and so on and so forth. Nobody should take law into his hands. The processes must improve. It's compulsory if we are to have a very peaceful political environment for everybody to have a sense of belonging.
All right, Alhaji, you've spoken about beavers, and I understand your disappointment. But beyond beavers, opinions are divided over INEC performance in these elections. What's your view on this?
Had it been beavers were utilized effectively and efficiently, you wouldn't have any other issue. Like I said, the laws are very clear. You can only cast your vote after you've been accredited, either by fingerprint or visual capturing. Now, once that law is being respected, you will not find any conflict. You know, there's no possibility of any conflict. Those who violated the process, and INEC allowed them to violate the process, where results are altered, physically altered, and then the law says the supervising officer can declare that election cancelled once result sheets are altered or the ballot box is being tampered with, that election of that particular polling unit can be cancelled. That is the provision. But you can see the negation of the process completely. Once INEC INEC have done the needful, trained people sufficiently to deal with the beaver system, because the report you have seen in most of the states of the Federation, videos, evident videos of people thumbprinting in the various states of the Federation, result sheets, ballot papers, altering. It's uncalled for at the level that we are today. The billions that was sunk to conduct this election, you know, if you bring it pari passu with the situation that we have today, you ask yourself whether it merited it or not, because it's a public funds that was injected. And what is it that we cannot accept, that one can win, one can lose? There can be one president at a time. So the process was really faulty. Like I have mentioned, the beavers were not effectively being deployed. It happens to me personally, which I have recorded. I have complained about it in my own constituency and in several other constituencies. There are many states INEC ought to have cancelled them, you know, and make sure that they fix a date that sufficient deployment can be made so that proper election can be conducted. I've seen the videos of what happened in Rivers. It's a shame that we cannot conduct election in the states where beavers were not deployed. People just wrote results. How can we continue with this kind of impunity in a country where we have invested on our life to build an institution? You know?
All right, so who is to blame? Alaji, who is to blame? INEC or the political class for the sundry inadequacies?
Both of us are responsible. INEC, as an institution that was established by law to conduct election, must take responsibility. I'm happy they have taken responsibility. They say they are investigating thoroughly. Number two, the political players, the candidate must also take responsibility, because talks do not fall from heaven. It's the people, politicians, that mobilize talk to disrupt the process. And then the conspiracy of the political elites to ensure that there's a confusion or to ensure that the system is being hijacked. You can see people hijacking ballot boxes, result sheet, ballot papers physically. And you see security men right there watching, doing nothing about it. You can see some aides of governors counting money, physically distributing money. There is no arrest so far that have been announced. It's in videos, went viral all over the place. You can hear people releasing audios that are provocative, you know, that have created a lot of tension in the system. And you have effective security agencies that ought to have performed efficiently, effectively for the stability of Nigeria, for peace and unity of Nigeria. So the entire, you know, actors in the game must take responsibility. Parties must take responsibility. Candidates must take responsibility. But more so, INEC must take most of the responsibility, because by law, they are the ones to conduct elections. Party produces candidates for the elections. So both, you know, the key actors compromises the process. And I believe that this should be a lesson for all of us as actors, as players in the field, because posterity will not be kind to us. The younger generations that are agitating, that are fighting for fairness and justice and equity, you cannot take away their issues. They are factual. They are right, you know, by some of the things that has happened, because we were not transparent enough to avoid some of these issues that have happened. INEC is battling with image issues, you know, more than any other time in the history of Nigeria. You can imagine that a country that have registered over 90 million voters end up with producing 8 million plus, you know, to produce the president of Nigeria. You can see just the Abia election that was just declared, about 9,000 or something votes, if I'm not making a mistake, made somebody a governor of the state. How do you define legitimacy? How do you define a legitimacy in the situation like this? The last election in a number 100 and something thousand votes, produces a governor of a state. In the state where you have more than 2 million registered voters. Now, if the followership have problem, the leadership equally have problem. But in this case, you see much of the problem with the followership. You can see physically people are the conscience being bought with rice, with spaghetti, with omo, with a lot of things. Physically, you see it happening everywhere. People use different means to buy votes. The buying of vote is one of the major things that, have discredited the entire exercise. I do hope and I do pray that as citizens will come back to our senses, will do the needful, will allow the system to work, because no matter how you want to do it, except we Nigerians agree that we'll be decent, we'll be humble in the way and the manner we conduct ourselves. Otherwise, there's no any miracle. Nothing will fall from heaven. We are responsible for most of the mess that have taken place.
Right. So aside from vote buying, which you just mentioned, what other factors do you think influenced the voting and outcome of the 2023 election?
Number one, I have mentioned it before, the policy of the government as regards to redesigning of the Naira and Naira circulation grossly affected this election. There is no government on earth that can take this insensitive decision at the eve of election. You disenfranchise people by denying them the means to go to even the polling unit. You saw a lot of people trekking. Some of them were not even privileged to cast their votes. You see the weaponization of poverty above any other consideration that you can think of. People are terribly hungry and looking for what to eat, by all means. So easy distraction was created because poverty was terribly weaponized. And the government must take responsibility. I have said this, President Muhammadu Buhari must take responsibility for the low turnout of voters. This is the same president who said that one of the legacy he wants to leave behind is a legacy of free and fair election. There was no free and fair election. We accommodate what have happened as a nation, but he must take responsibility because the turnout turned out to be the lowest. President Shagari vote that produced as the president of Nigeria was almost similar to the one that produced the current president-elect that we have, which is a shame, which means that we have not moved on as a nation. We are retrogressing instead of moving forward, instead of progressively moving forward, advancing our thinking, advancing our behavior, advancing our conversation. This election happened between three major tribes. I can say it clearly, and which is a great disservice to the country. It's an election between the Yorubas, the Igbos, and the so-called House of Fulanis. The presidential election, which is a shame that at this level we still go on ethnic bigotry, religious leaders making pronouncements, making endorsements, making insensitive statements, and then you see security agencies aloof to it, showing nonchalant attitude to it. You see the government that is in charge of the security agencies saying nothing about it, as if it is a normal behavior that we should go through as a nation. So a lot of characteristics that have happened before the election influences the entire election as a whole. And that is not good for the country. The executive arm of the government have not done their best before the election because the environment wasn't conducive. It is the executive that is responsible for creating conducive environment for election to take place, not INEC. And I have always said that INEC is not independent to an extent that they do not arrest, they don't have the security agencies to arrest, they do not create conducive environment, they wait for environment to be created for them to deploy sensitive materials. In this case, INEC have done to a large extent marvelously well in terms of mobilization. But was the environment conducive? Were the security agencies properly prepared to deal with agents of saboteurs that have compromised the country? Was the security agencies able to arrest those who compromise the law? And did the INEC order for the arrest of resident electoral commissioners or returning officers for violating the process to be arrested? Were they arrested? So if you do not create these deterrents, I don't see any hope, even in the future election, that things are likely to change. And then we don't have any option. We have chosen democracy, we will go by it. If we refuse to learn in a civilized way, we will learn in a hard way. You know, and so many factors are responsible, created by the government, that determine the outcome of the election, even before the election.
All right, let's now talk about your party. The SDP came sixth in the presidential election, won 2 senatorial and 4 House of Representatives seats. And I know you've accepted the presidential election, but you say you will challenge the National Assembly elections in places you believed the SDP won. Tell me more about that and what next for the party from here?
Well, I'm happy that despite the hostile environment we find ourselves, and let me make this very clear so that you'll understand. APC are the government that is in power. They have access to resources, they have access to public funds. PDP have governors, have senators, House of Reps, they have access to public funds. Labour Party, the presidential candidate was a former governor twice, was a board member, also vice presidential candidate to Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Then the NNPP candidate, Senator Musa Rabiu Konkoso, was a governor twice, was a minister, so he has some level of resources available to him. SDP was the only party that fought through the struggle. We went through the jungle. We fought hard. We marketed the party. We defended the party. Our vote that we got was hard-earned vote because we have no money anywhere to buy anybody or to buy the conscience of anybody. And we are grateful to Nigerians for believing in us, for remodeling the party, for rejiggling the party, the mentality of the party. We changed the narrative from the narrative that was known for selling the party or selling the candidate out. We have never done that. We issued a clear statement. We did not compromise any candidate of the party. We stood by all our candidates up to this last election. I'm very happy that we recorded success under my leadership. I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful to Nigerians that supported this party. This is the party for the future. And then we'll continue to ride on it. We'll continue to work hard. We'll continue to contribute our quota. We are now part of those that will add value to a new Nigeria in the parliament. We'll make sure that we distinguish ourselves in terms of the quality of ideas that we generate. We'll push our senators, House of Reps, state assembly members that we have gotten these elections. We'll make sure that we organize a very close interface between us and them to deal with national issues that will enhance the efficacy of our country and the productivity of the country and the quality of the life of Nigerians. So we are on board. We are grateful that Nigerians have put us on board, in this election, and we'll work with government that is willing to listen to quality advice. We'll contribute efficiently for our country to move on. We'll not allow anything that will take this country down. We'll not support any anarchic situation that will take Nigeria down. We believe in the sanctity of the life of Nigeria. We believe in the rule of law. And I also hope that the president-elect that is privileged to be elected understand the dynamic of the country right now, the feelings of the country right now. I've listened to some of his statement, even of recent, which is a sign of a good thinking, sign of good reasoning, sign of feeling the pulse of Nigerians. I will encourage him to do that. I will encourage him to engage the entire political system because, there's a need for him to understand that the political environment is very dicey. He needs the nation on board. He needs every citizen on board. I have read his statement, which is very good, which is very credible. He mentioned a lot of things that touch the nerves of the people, and I believe and I hope he will work on it as he mentioned. He has a very good history to deal with, so he should strengthen that history. And then, of course, whatever at the end of the day the court have decided will stand by the decision of the court. But for now, before the final judgment of the court on the various court cases that are ongoing, we believe he should take a leadership responsibility very effectively, very efficiently, with engaging the system robustly, so that you will reduce the level of acrimony, the level of pains, the level of frustration the country is going through. I have seen also the issue of central bank is at the front burner. Nigeria are threatening to shut the central bank down because of this currency circulation. The fact of the matter is that people cannot afford to feed 3 times a day. That is the situation. The Central Bank of Nigeria have committed an economic sabotage for the country, and there's the need to investigate that. You can't hijack public funds, without any justification. The contract between the bank and customers is that they will have access to their money anytime. There is no any law that authorizes the banks to hijack the public funds. You know, the pains are enormous. They are extremely very, very hard. They bite extremely very, very high. So if the president-elect have not gone into this, or his think tank have not started digesting these issues to come up with policies and programs that will soften the situation, I'm telling you, you'll find it extremely very difficult to move on.
All right. Having said that, some analysts are of the opinion that your party is not visible enough, hence couldn't win much. So what are you doing to expand your tentacles?
I don't know what they mean by visibility. I believe SDP was more visible, participated in a lot of conversations of ideas more than any presidential candidate. If you say we don't have the money, you know, to oil our structures, I agree with that. I've given you the analogy of the presidential candidate, which is factual, and it is also in record. We don't have that resources. We don't have any source of income. Look, this party that we are seeing today, SDP have the best structure, physical structure you can talk about in Nigeria, better than any political party. We have reached out to virtually everywhere. We did not go for revenue generation. We went for quality individuals to win for election. And that's what gives us some of the advantage we have gotten. We did not go for revenue generation. We went for quality of people. Some of them we make sacrifices to put them there because we know they represent a better Nigeria, a prosperous Nigeria. So in terms of visibility, SDP is very visible. It's not SDP of briefcase parties. We are not a briefcase political party. I've mentioned this severally. We have structure in all states of the federation. We have offices nationwide. Of course, we are not visible in terms of money because we don't have public funds. We have no access to public funds. But in terms of quality of the people that manage the party, there's no party that can beat the quality of people that are in SDP today. I bet you go and take stock of all the leadership of all the parties nationwide. We have some of the best quality people that can run the affairs of the party. But yes, we don't have money to deal with some of the exigencies expected of us to do. We admitted that clearly, and there's no way we can go and steal money to do it. So we deal with issues, we deal with facts. We have some of the best manifesto, we have the best constitution. Go and check our constitution. Most of the people that have joined this party stated it clearly on air, including Otedo Peter said that he joined SDP because the constitution is very good, is solid. We took time, we brought quality people to look through our constitution and our manifesto. But like I said, the weaponization of poverty can destroy any good thing that you have because people are not in charge of the intellectual faculty. People are thinking about their daily survival. How will they survive within 1 hour, 2 hours? What can they have to sustain their family? I saw a program yesterday where people are having mental issues because of depression. And that is the truth on ground. The economy is extremely bad. We were trying to recover from recession, and then they came up with this currency saga that have taken the economy down on its knees. You know, you can't get access to your personal funds. Not to talk of policy and program policy of the government that is economic based, that is weak, that is on its knees. They cannot stand on their feet. The government of today, economically, they are not on their feet. And they have accepted failure on both sides. So we are urging the entire citizens to understand the dynamics that we are in, the situation we find ourselves, and of course, despite the hostile environment, we are able to navigate through and generate some quality, you know, people that were voted into office. We are grateful to Nigerians.
All right, Alhaji. On the program tonight is the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, Shehu Gabam. When we come back from this break, we will continue with examining the 2023 elections and Nigeria's stability. Please stay with us.